This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a discussion on Delhi Regional Security Dialogue for a stable, inclusive and peaceful Afghanistan. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Today we are discussing the Delhi Regional Security Dialogue, which is to be held in New Delhi next week, where the NSA has invited the NSAs of the neighboring countries, and the main issue on agenda is the evolving situation in Afghanistan. We see that in August, Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, and since then there has been a rapid escalation of violence and chaos in the country, and this has affected the neighboring countries and the global community as a whole. Ambassador Sajjanhar, when you see this Delhi Regional Security Dialogue, where the national security advisors of the neighboring countries will be coming to Delhi and the meeting will be hosted by our NSA, how significant is this meeting towards discussing what is happening in Afghanistan and taking steps forward?
I think it's a very important meeting, and I am particularly happy to note that India has taken this initiative, because it's been mentioned for the last 3 months or so, ever since Taliban was increasing its dominance and control over Afghanistan. It has been bad strategic loss for India, because India was present in Afghanistan in a big way for the last 20 years, ever since the United States came in 2001 and dislodged the Taliban government. Since that time, India has been present. It has had excellent relations with the administrations, whether of Hamid Karzai or of Ashraf Ghani. And most importantly, it has had excellent relations with the people of Afghanistan. And India has done a large number of projects there, whether it is major infrastructure projects, it is the Pule-Khumri communication park line to transmit electricity, or it is the Zaranj-Dilaram road, more than 200 kilometers of highway joining these two major cities in Afghanistan, or it is the Salma Dam, which is known now as the Afghanistan-India Friendship Dam, or the Parliament building. In addition to that, we've done about more than 500 high-impact community development projects in all the 34 provinces. So India was present in a very big way in terms of making a difference to the livelihood of the people. And when the Taliban came and India had to move its embassy out also, India-based personnel out of Kabul, and then it was thought that India did not have any presence at all. And although Afghanistan is an extremely important, it's a part of our extended neighborhood, it's a part of SAARC. So India was losing its presence and its influence there. So in that context, I think it is very useful that India is organizing this NSA's meet, where we have invited the national security advisors of countries like Iran, the 5 Central Asian countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. These 3 share borders with Afghanistan, also Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, and Russia, China, Pakistan. We have already heard from Pakistan that their NSA will not be coming. I think it is in very poor taste, but it is not difficult to understand, because the whole major objective of Pakistan has always been that India should not have any role to play and should not have any influence at all in Afghanistan. So it is not surprising, but it is known that the NSAs of the 5 Central Asian countries will be coming, as also of Iran and Russia. China, we do not have response as yet, but if I were to hazard a guess, it would be my thinking that China will also not send the NSA from Beijing for a variety of reasons. It would like to show its support to Pakistan, because Pakistan is not coming, so China will also stay back. China is not interested in seeing India's position, India's role, profile, clout in the region increase, and also because of the rather stressful and tense relations between India and China. So I think on the 10th of this month, we are going to have a number of important NSAs, and they will have very substantive conversation and discussions as to how to ensure security, peace and stability in Afghanistan.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, as you pointed out that Pakistan is likely not to attend the meet. The invitation has gone from the Indian side, and media reports have already indicated that Pakistan is not expected to attend the meeting. And as you pointed out again with China, we so far really don't have a response from China. How do you assess, Ambassador Sajjan, the role of Pakistan, especially given the fact that we saw their Foreign Minister Qureshi in Kabul a while back, and we have seen how closely the Taliban regime is working with Pakistan? My question primarily was that a lot of people feel, including what we've seen the US dealing with Kabul, that you need Pakistan at the table in order to discuss Afghanistan. Do you feel that this deliberate attempt by Pakistan to not attend the meeting in Delhi is also a very clever way of Pakistan maintaining its position where they know that they are somewhere needed to deal with Afghanistan? So staying away, they are also trying to play the spoil sport in the coming together of the NSAs in Delhi.
You know what you said very correctly, that they are trying to play a spoil sport. So in my view, their staying out will definitely, expose them that they are not keen to bring in peace and stability in the country, and they want to have a dominant role and a control as far as Afghanistan, the Taliban caretaker government is concerned, and so on and so forth. So I think they might think that it is a very smart move. In a manner of speaking, they might feel that if Pakistan is not there, it would reduce the importance, the significance, and the relevance of this meeting. But I think the presence of Russia, presence of Iran, and presence of the three Central Asian republics, those which border Afghanistan, I think that will be quite adequate to bring the discussions in a very substantive manner and throw up ideas in which the situation in Afghanistan can be restored and peace can be brought in to the country. So I think that Pakistan's machinations will not be very fruitful. What you said is very right, that the Taliban has got refuge, safe havens in Pakistan for 20 years. They have been able to carry on their attacks in Afghanistan against the US security forces, against NATO security forces, against the Afghan National Defense security forces, only because they have been supported by Pakistan, not only in terms of providing them with safe havens, but also providing them with the wherewithal, the equipment, the ammunition, the weaponry, everything. So, and they feel that at least there is a section of the Taliban which is very beholden to Pakistan. And you could see that when on 4th of September, you would recall the then NSA of Pakistan, Faiz Hamid, he visited Kabul even before caretaker government had been announced, had been put in place. And he really turned the screws and the levers to ensure that the Haqqani network, which is particularly very closely related to the ISI, to the Inter-Services Intelligence of Pakistan, that they got the major positions of power and influence. Like Sirajuddin Haqqani, he is the Interior Minister, he is the Home Minister, and the other members of Khalil Haqqani also, they are all in very important positions. Because if Faiz Hamid had not gone to Kabul, then possibly many of the important positions might have been taken by the associates of Mullah Ghani Baradar, who was expected at that time to become the Prime Minister. Now he is one of the two Deputy Prime Ministers. In fact, in terms of at the negotiating phase, when the Doha process was going on, then it was Mullah Ghani Baradar and Sher Stanikzai who had been in the forefront of speaking to foreign governments and giving them commitments that the territory of Pakistan will not be used for carrying out terrorist attacks against neighboring countries or other countries, that it will be an inclusive government, that they will not take revenge against those people who had been working with the former Afghan government or with those who had worked with the US forces or other forces of other countries, representatives of other countries who were based in Afghanistan for the last 20 years. And also that they would respect the rights of minorities, that they would respect the position of women, their rights would be protected, they would be allowed to work, they would be allowed to come out of their homes, their studies, education, meaning that the Taliban government of the current time would be very, very different from the highly conservative and brutal and repressive regime that Taliban had from 1996 to 2001. So all these people have been moved out of the front positions. We saw even in Moscow, when the Moscow format of talks took place on the 20th of October, we didn't have any of the earlier interlocutors from the Taliban. So Pakistan has a very important role, but I think Haqqani network being in an important position will ensure that Pakistan cannot be disregarded completely. But still, I think there are a number of forces within Afghanistan and within the Taliban with whom India can try to have a conversation, try to have a dialogue, and ensure that its own interests are safeguarded and are promoted.
Master Sajjanhar, as you mentioned about the role of Russia, and we've seen that the Russian NSA will be here next week, and this will be his second visit to India in 2 months. The last time he was here in September for a high-level intergovernment dialogue again on Afghanistan. And we've also seen that as far as the Central Asian countries are concerned, they somehow also depend on Russia for their security concerns, especially as the violence and instability in Afghanistan grows. Do you feel that the fact that one, Russia, and second also Iran, that the NSAs are coming and India and Russia and Iran seem to have some kind of an understanding on how to go further as far as Afghanistan is concerned, that will go a long way in addressing the security concerns which India and all the other countries have as far as Afghanistan is concerned?
I think that the presence of the Russian and the Iranian NSAs and the presence of the other NSAs from Central Asia, that will be extremely useful, extremely fruitful in getting a very productive result out of these deliberations. You are right that the Russian NSA will be here twice in sort of a little more than 2 months. Last time he was here, it was on the 8th of September. And that was an immediate fallout of the conversation that had taken place between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin on the 26th of August, and where President Putin had called Prime Minister Modi and they had established a personal direct channel to be able to discuss with each other and share their thoughts and ideas with each other on the situation in Afghanistan. Because I think Russia, Iran, etc., they had thought that the commitments that have been made by Taliban, they would be able to stick to them. But now Taliban has observed all these commitments more in breach rather than in following them. So all these countries are extremely worried. You're also very right that Russia considers the Central Asian countries to be its soft underbelly, and that if the terrorist groups in Afghanistan or even elements of the Taliban itself, if they are able to create problems or difficulties for the Central Asian countries, then it will have a direct impact on Russia also. That is why Russia, whether it is under the aegis of the CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, or bilaterally, it has been having military exercises with many Central Asian countries. It has its largest base in Tajikistan. It has also promised that if there are anti-Tajik establishment elements which try to come into Tajikistan from the southern borders, then Russia will stand ready to protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Tajikistan. Similarly, in Uzbekistan, although Uzbekistan is not a member of CSTO, but they've been having bilateral military exercises. And the presence of the Islamic State, Khorasan province, which has been carrying out so many attacks in Afghanistan since the Taliban took power, and also the presence of Al-Qaeda, which is very closely intertwined with the Haqqani network. I think these are all matters of worry for both Russia as well as Iran. And we recently also had the Kyrgyz NSA in India. We also had the Kazakh NSA. So I think we are on same thinking plane as far as most of these countries are concerned. So I think this meeting holds promise of being a very substantive and forward-looking deliberation, which would be helpful to bring peace and security in Afghanistan.
And with these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Delhi Regional Security Dialogue for a stable, inclusive and peaceful Afghanistan. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.